power. It is one of the most basic, yet also one of the most important concepts in international relations, especially for realists. There are two types of power, namely soft and hard power. However, in this episode, we're not going to talk about soft power, but we are going to discuss about hard power. Hard power is a very simple and intuitive form of power. It is easy to develop and, to a certain extent, much more easily practiced than soft power in terms and relation with the amount of economical and also the military strength needed to execute it. Hard power is older than soft power and manifests itself in a very concrete way. And it's also easy to measure rather than soft power because it's rather quantifiable. It not only carries on its own ideological approach, but can also be found in different contexts. Here's a simple model to show you the example of the hard power. Imagine you have a donkey and you're riding it. You want the creature to keep moving because you want it to follow you, you want it to obey you for your command. And therefore, there are two ways in which you can actually make the donkey follow your orders. First, you have the carrot method, right? So you hang a carrot in front of the donkey's mouth and head, and therefore it will induce the donkey to move forward in hopes and expectation of getting the reward, which is the carrot. And also there's a second method, which is the stick, that if the donkey stops moving, you hit its rear with a stick. Therefore, the donkey would move forward. However, in this case, it's with a fear of being hit more and repeatedly with the same stick. This shows you, both of this shows you an example of nice analysis and also an example on hard power. Nye said that hard power is simply how to use the carrots and sticks of military and economic capacity in order to force a state, country, an individual, a party to follow your bidding. Here, carrots are inducements, such as the reduction of tariff barriers, the promise of an alliance, diplomacy, and etc. And the sticks, in the context of state, are military threats, economic threats, something that can destroy the other, the opposing party. Therefore, applied to state version of the universe, you can see how nice small example of carrot, sticks, and donkey affect the whole politics of the world. Now, let's take a further look towards the context of power when used and applied to states. Now, inducement is about showing off your economic and military superiority. You want to make the opposing party induced and willing to conform to your beliefs, to want to do the actions you want them to do, however, not forcefully. For example, let's say you are an employer of a company and you set up rules for your employees, and you tell the employees that if you follow these rules, you will be given a reward. For example, I would raise your salary. Therefore, you are exerting your capacity, your power over this employee of yours to make them obey the rules you set up. You want them to obey you, so you promise them that you will reward them for their obedience. That is the example of inducement. There's also two sides of the inducement. There are a positive and negative side. And the negative side is that it gives to the threat. It gives to the threat, which is the second part which we are going to discuss later. However, there's also the positive side of economic power superiority. For example, the reward when we're talking about in state level, you can say that state A exerts its power through financial strength over state B by promising if state B obeys state A, then state A will give some financial grants to state B. For example, they would give financial aid. This in turn makes state B willing to follow state A's footsteps and become their follower, basically obeying them. And this is also an example of a hard power, though in a rewarding way. This is a very classic example of a command-obedience relations, but it is rather peculiar one because there's a positive sum result. If state B actually obeys state A on this example, then both of them will get rewards. Whereas state A will get what they want by gaining a new follower gate by making state B do what state A wants state B to do, but state B will also get profits. For example, that state A will give them financial aids. But let's say state B might one day stop obeying state A. For example, let's say that that they're planning to sell their obedience to, let's say, state C. And in this case, in this instant, they want to break free of the power exerted by state A upon them. Now, does this mean that hard power is ineffective? Does this mean that state A should concede to state B's will of being, autonomous, of being able to decide their own allegiance? Now, the truth is no, that hard power can be viewed as a continuum in terms of its capacity from being soft to harsh, from inducement to coercion. Let's then turn to the later aspect of hard power, which is the coercion. Recursion is a general categorization that comprises different degrees of intensity and therefore it has a peculiar relation with force. Since force is a tricky concept, it is better to say that the coercion here is related with the employment of violence, or even more precisely, the capability to threaten and actually manifest the threat. Let's say if state B ever decide to stop obeying state A and want to become autonomous or pledge allegiance to state C, then state A, with its military capacity, they're able to exert military threat upon state B. They're able to send military forces to state B and force state B to rethink their stances to state A and hope that state B will obey state A again in the future and stop thinking on planning on being autonomous or pledging their allegiance to state C. Because the power of state A in this case is derived from the capacity they have, which is the capacity to annihilate state B's existence should state B stop obeying state A. Therefore, state A has the power over state B because state A has the capacity and the willingness, and also they can actually manifest the threat they have given to state B in the first place. Now, looking back and summarizing up, hard power is actually a very complex, however intuitive form of power. It rests first and foremost on the possession of certain basic resources, amongst other military capacity and economic resources. And also it can be used to coerce, it can be used to induce. However, just like all powers, its function is to make another party concede to your will. It's to make another party do something that other party would not usually do, however they will do under your power. And also, despite its content-specific ideological approach, this concept actually manifests itself very well whenever needed in the realm of international politics, especially as a means to resolve disputes between states and in realist theories. Alright guys, that wraps it up for hard power. And please stay tuned to the channel because next video, we're going to talk about soft power, which is the other side of powers, and also something that you can use to induce the others. It's actually more subtle and actually cooler. Stay tuned. Thank you. Attention. Bye bye.